Oh man, I gotta say, this has been one of the more interesting console reveals I have seen as of lately, and I don't even know where to begin. I'm doing this video off the cuff. This is talking about the Switch 2 reveal, Nintendo motherfucker, and we are gonna get right into it with the overall console itself. I'm gonna go from an order, and they're talking about I'm gonna get the boring stuff out of the way. The larger screen, the thickness being equivalent to the Switch 1, it's all expected behavior, as well as having this with the handheld modes where it's going to be 1080p, 120 FPS, HDR, LCD, docked is going to be 4K output, HDR up to 4K 60. It's probably going to be a dynamic, or it's probably not going to be like true 4K 60. Magnetic Joy-Cons, larger buttons, mouse controls with Joy-Cons, better speakers, 3D audio with headphones, a built-in mic. They have a 256 gigabyte internal SSD. I thought it would be maybe a terabyte or larger, but again, they're going to have these games be held on the cart. I still would imagine though that you're gonna have to upgrade that space sooner or later, because video games are getting fucking big nowadays, and one cart of Cyberpunk 2077 is 64 gigabytes. Backwards compat with Switch 1 games, and of course obviously Nintendo had a little blurb that kind of stood out to me just a little bit, where they said Nintendo Switch games will have some compatibility issues with the Switch 2. So if you're trying to play Switch 1 games on Switch 2, there is a list of shit that's gonna be fucked up. Problems and issues that are being investigated currently. Some of the games listed here: Alan Wake Remastered, obviously I play that. Alien Isolation, that sucks, that doesn't work. Some of the Hitman games, I think Hitman 3, the cloud version, but cloud sucks, so let's move on from that. And then moving down the list, some of the King of Fighters, they don't work. Let's see what else here, and I think that's about it, but still, Batman Enemy Within, I enjoyed playing that when I did. So some of these games I do know of just a little bit, and some of them will not be working day one on the Switch 2. Compatibility issues for a console that's going to be $450. That's the main point here. The price of the console itself, I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's reasonable. I think it's the lowest amount compared to the PS5 itself, because I mean, they just fucking released the PS5 Pro, which is like $700, $800. All right, we already knew that compared to most console distributors, that Nintendo was going to be probably the cheapest. I would say they are either near or somehow a little bit higher than the Series S, because I think that console's like $300, right? Correct me if wrong in the comments, but this is like a good price point for a console, and PlayStation is still like the most expensive one in terms of like their premier marquee PS5 Pro. But you could probably get like a PS5 now for like relatively cheaper, a little disc drive, you're good, but still, this is nice. All right, and they're releasing with a free game, Mario Kart World, an expected Mario Kart game to play and break in the system for $500. And they had like 3 games there. The new Mario Kart, that's a given. A new Donkey Kong. I remember playing Donkey Kong Country back in the fucking day and just being so excited and enthralled with that game in terms of the environments, the platforming, the fun factor that it had. It's nice to see a new Donkey Kong. And then fake Bloodborne, that is not in name only but in aesthetics only, because they had a new FromSoft presentation and they showed a new sort of Bloodborne looking game, but it's not Bloodborne. And it's another weird multiplayer experiment for FromSoft. It's like you're basically in this Bloodborne aesthetic prism, and you are with 8 other players, and it's PvPE. It's player versus player and environment is kind of a weird concoction, a weird mixture of an idea, but I guess maybe they decided, hey, we're kind of experimenting a little bit with multiplayer. We have Night Rain over here, and now we want to do something quick and easy for the new Nintendo Switch 2, so let's make a non-committal multiplayer game and maybe we'll get some money off of brand loyalty only. That's the reason why I think they made this game in the first place. Just something quick and easy for people to play near launch. No OLED though. I'm kind of surprised by that. After all this time, after all these specs that we listed about, you know, better buttons and mouse controls and better LCD screens and all this shit, better FPS for certain games. I think it's gonna run Metroid Prime 4 at about 120 FPS. Still no OLED screen. They talked about Zelda a little bit and how some of these legacy games that are gonna, obviously you're gonna have to pay like about $10 to $15 to upgrade them and have better graphics, FPS, HDR support, new notes, and upgrade from purchasing them. That's the purchase pack that you upgrade from $10, and it's launching, you know, when the console is coming out, so you have the definitive version of the game for the Switch 2. And then they showed the games that are confirmed for the console that are coming over. Cyberpunk 2077, 64 gig cart, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy 7 Intergrade, Hades 2, Split Fiction, Street Fighter 6. And good to have like some fighting games on here, like for once. I hope that other fighting games make it, maybe Tekken 8, but that season 2 is just absolutely trash. Hogwarts Legacy, cool. I liked Hogwarts Legacy. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, 4 remake, Yakuza 0, which is getting some updates in the English version. So young, yeah, but I'm sorry. Hitman World of Assassination, the new 007 game from IOI Interactive, Bravely Default. That's also cool. Like I can't wait to see what they do with James Bond. Borderlands 4, Civilization, WWE 2K, of course Madden, you know, the typical games that they like to regurgitate and recycle every year. You got those two. So I mean, not to shit on those, but you know, there's something for everyone with this launch, and they tried to make sure to include that third-party venture just in case and get all those games in there. You got fighting games, you got open world wizard games, RPGs, you got Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which is always awesome to play, and then you have your Elden Rings, your Final Fantasies. You have a lot to go on for this new console. Of course, we have to get to the big one. Now, I've been mostly kind of positive so far about this, right? I said even the price point for the console itself is relatively fine. I have no issues with $450, but there is some negatives. So like I said, there are certain games that will not work on the backwards compatibility list, and I think that is a problem. There is also the fact that you need a specific game card key system, and of all the 4 Nintendo Switch 2 games available for pre-order now, Bravely Default and Street Fighter 6 will not be on cartridge. The cartridge will just be a trigger to download via the newly branded game keycard system. And someone said that was a garbage concept. I asked someone, a friend, what this means, and he said there still exists games that are physical. Is basically like a code in the box for the Switch 1, so it's already been a pre-existent thing that happened. You can just resell it now, which I thought was kind of interesting. You can resell it, so maybe if you want, you get tired of that game, you can make some money back and that'll be no problem. But you guys kind of already see the price, right? You see the prices for this, right? Donkey Kong Bonanza adds $104. Bravely Default is at $54. Street Fighter for year 1 and year 2 DLC, $74. Mario Kart is $114. And then the big quantum leap, the moment you've been waiting for, baby. My thoughts on Nintendo raising the price of games to $80 in the US for digital and $90 physical. This is a new precedent after Take-Two and the PS5 raised the games to about $70, and the rumors of GTA 6 launching games at about $80 to $100. And if you don't know what this means, basically, let's try to break this down. There was a time when video games was about at least $50 in the US. You can just quote me on that. There were certain places where the MSRP for video games was about $50, right? And they were for like some PS1 games. I know some games were also more expensive than that back in the day, but again, we have things like inflation and all that, tariffs all coming into the picture, so kind of the landscape really changed. All I know is that for the PS1 it was 50, and then when we got to the PlayStation 3, I think that's when games started to go up at about $60. And then after that, PlayStation 4, it was about 70 after a certain point. And the blame kind of went to Take-Two when there was like, I think it was an NBA game that was $70, and most companies said, hey, we're gonna follow along the track and put on our business suits and say that it's going to be $70 because it is what it is. And for a while, I personally knew that games were gonna go up to $70. I had no problem with that. I felt like that was pushing the line a little bit up, $10 more, but I thought that was completely fine, having games at about $70. And now that we're hearing that big tech and gaming firms and everything, things are getting more expensive in the AAA space, games are getting more expensive to make, and thus the price hike will probably be $80 to $90 to $100. I think the common thing here is that most people don't want to pay beyond $70 for a video game. And I am against that logic 100%, because I feel like we already had the prices raised up, and then it's like you have video games that are priced at about $70 that really don't hit that whole, oh, everything has to be a 10 out of 10, everything has to be a 9 out of 10. Sometimes you have your 8s and your 7s and your 6s and your 5s, and that's not good enough at $90 in my personal opinion. I believe that if you're gonna get stingy, of course, then I'm gonna get more stingy, right? Now if GTA fucking 6 comes out, look, I'm gonna fucking play that game no matter what. I'm a huge GTA freak. When it comes to games that actually is something that I give a shit about, yes, I will pay premier price for those video games. Now I know, put the pitchforks down really quickly. Let me explain. Again, these are certain games that meet a quality standard. I know GTA when it comes out is gonna get a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 or close, alright? Game of the year, all about, I know all that shit, right? To me, I think that's worth the value, and I think Rockstar will make this game an expansive game, a dynamic game, and I think they will definitely justify the cost, in my opinion. I think it will be a quality game. That's not to say that I don't feel bad for the person that's not interested in GTA, and thus the rest of the industry probably will suffer because of it. And I think that, I know people are gonna say, oh, you're part of the problem, it's whatever, but listen, I think that means that I'm gonna get a lot more stingy as a result of it, as someone that's actually down to get GTA at a premier price. Because look, if games are not hitting the quality bar of a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 or whatever, I'm not gonna buy them. Like, it's just simply gonna make me a lot more picky and stingy. And if a studio just crumbles or falls under the weight of these games being way too expensive and not selling what is due, like if you make a 7, I'm not buying that at like $90. Like premier studios like Rockstar, Capcom, Naughty Dog, those are games that will probably meet the bar, the expectation. CD Projekt Red, where it's like anyone else, I don't really see myself getting day ones from someone like, I don't know, a Bandai Namco, right? I like them. The same goes for someone like Team Ninja. I don't see myself getting day ones from Team Ninja anymore if they're like $90, DOA 7, copious amounts of DLC. Like, what the fuck is that, right? This is only going to make the gamer a lot more picky, even if they're part of the problem or not. And a lot more games are going to fail at this price point. I don't think that everything can be like a GTA. I don't think that everything can be like that high quality GTA, and there's gonna be some people that will constantly not settle for less, right? The reality of the situation is nobody likes super price hikes, and when you do, you just simply have to justify the cost. Is this game gonna have like, it's gonna make those people who said if this game doesn't have like 100 hours of gameplay and it can't feel like padding, you're gonna make those folks justified, right? You're gonna make people even more skeptical. Oh, this game is like fucking what, 20 hours? That's not worth $80. This game has next to no replay value? That's not worth $80. This game has like no online? That's not worth $80. I need like more time to sink my time into not only single player, but a good online. You're making the demand increase with your video game, and if you can't deliver, you're gonna be left in the dust. That is honestly what I'm thinking. I'm getting a little greedy with what I want. It's gotta be a 9, it's gotta be a 10, it's gotta have good multiplayer that's tacked on, it's gotta have a good single player, it's gotta have a great story. I gotta be tanking hours into this game, multiplayer and single player, and I have to have some replay value to come back to. I'm gonna get more stingy at this price point, and only top tier marquee studios will deliver that bar for me. Capcom, Resident Evils, that's gonna deliver that bar for me, whereas everything else I'm gonna be like, I don't know, I'll wait for sale, right? Right? Like and that's how I feel about this. I'm not gonna stop buying video games, but I am gonna be more of a demanding motherfucker in the process, because that's kind of the little reaction and the yellow flag you put on yourself. So what can you deliver to me to buy certain video games at $90 to $80, right? It's just gonna be like that. It has to be. Fuck, I think we are going to see not only issues, will it cause another crash? I don't know, possibly. I do think you're gonna hit a point where people aren't gonna buy video games at these prices whatsoever, because again, even the casual person might not buckle to $80 to $90 on a video game. They're gonna say, whoa, this is very expensive. I could play most things on Game Pass. Oh wait, they're gonna raise Game Pass too. But the reality is that's going to be a lot more cheaper than owning your games, and that's going to be good for casual gamers. Like, this whole paradigm is changing before us, and if you're too oblivious to not see it now, you're going to see it eventually. For me, it depends on the game and the IP and the quality bar that I talked about earlier, and if they're not meeting that whatsoever, I think the 8 out of 10, the 7 out of 10, the 6 out of 10, the 5 out of 10, I think those games are dead. Personally, going forward, those games are going to die under this price point, because you're going to be wanting to expect more from these games. And if your Mario Kart or your Donkey Kong doesn't deliver, guess what? That shit is dead on arrival. It is dead. Dead, DOA, dead. All right. And it kills the room for creativity. Like, what's gonna happen when you put out a new IP and it's not proven at like $90? Is someone taking the swing for that? Like, I have no idea, but it's going to be a fascinating time for sure. Although I did expect prices to go up. I did, because once again, tariffs and how it was going to affect the digital industry, including video games, technology, all that other stuff. I knew prices would raise just a smidge. Same for Game Pass, possibly being hiked in the future. When it happens, don't say I didn't tell you so, because I told you so here, right? So I feel indifferent about this entirely. I'll buy what I want to buy at a marquee price, but I will be buying less games if everything is priced at $100 and these games aren't delivering 10 out of 10 masterpieces, right? That's the name of the game. I always knew gaming was an expensive hobby, but it's gonna be a lot more picking and choosing. But at least video games will be going on sale on the PlayStation Store if they sell at that price, as opposed to Nintendo, where they stay $60 to $80 forever digitally. And that sucks, right? That sucks ass. In order to beat it, they said $10 more the physical. What the fuck, man? I think it's fair to not like this. I think $150 is a fair price for a console. So do I. Although I think $90 for physical games is outright insane. I can see where he's coming from. 100%. All right. I can see where the man is coming from. It's even funnier that they're selling the Nintendo Switches. They have two versions though, which is one misconception I saw on Twitter. Oh, they're just selling the Nintendo Switch for cheap in Japan. They kind of are, but you don't get the region unlocked console if you buy the cheapest version. Therefore, you're kind of cutting like one of your balls off if you get the inferior product, right? So that's kind of how they fuck you. They fuck you just like that. They fuck you in a wheelchair, they fuck you in a pool, they fuck you on a cue ball's head or whatever. That's how they fuck you, all right? So it's like, oh man, I don't know. I don't know when, where, or how, or when these companies will learn that sometimes too much is too much. And we are getting to that point. We are getting to that discussion now of, do you really want to pay $100 for a singular video game? And what if you want to get multiple video games? It's like, oh fuck no, that shit is gonna cost me an arm and a leg, right? I know some people are gonna be like that, and I can see it. I'm indifferent. I will get what I want to get, and I can admit to FOMO, fear of missing out, for the toppest of quality. But if I'm not getting that whatsoever, I'm gonna keep my wallet close. So that is what I think for this video. I think a lot of AA studios are gonna suffer as well. Hopefully their publishers don't fuck them over, but well, here's to that. I guess the indie scene will be still booming no matter what. But oh man, this is, I don't know if this is a dark day or what. It sure does feel like it, right? It feels like a dark cloud just sitting there, and the rain is pouring, and you have no fucking raincoat, no fucking umbrella whatsoever. Then you're just like, huh? No money, no game today, wallet closed, and that's kind of how it's gonna work. Yeah, this is a very mixed reveal to me. A lot of great things, some great games are coming over to the system. Great price point for the console itself, yet the games themselves is going to be spicy at that amount, and you know companies are going to follow suit. I would be surprised if they don't at this rate, especially if it is, well, successful, because when companies see success, they will ape off of others' success. That's kind of how it always worked. And it's going to be no different here. It's going to be no different. And more people are going to be picky, and less games are going to get bought. Maybe we will see something happen in the future, who knows? But I think this is very interesting. We will see what other games Nintendo has, because apparently this is not over. They're going to have more days of streaming more games on the Switch too. We'll see how that pans out. Overall, mixed sort of response from me. They could have done a lot better than this. Anyway, I'm Renegade Operative. I will see you guys next time. Later.